The word extensive communicates that whole process, people's democracy, covers a huge range of structures and processes. That means things like the People's Congresses. It means things like CPPCC. It means structures in which a huge number of different individuals and groups have representation and the opportunity to participate. I would interpret the word genuine in the context of whole process people's democracy as meaning that it tries to deliver what it says on the tin. Whole process people's democracy is a genuine attempt to deliver good outcomes to all the people. And I think that in practice, if you look at what is happening in China, you can see that reflected. Effective as a word comes back to what I was just saying. How successful is whole process people's democracy at delivering what it's supposed to deliver? Often when I'm talking about democracy in China, I talk about 3 C's. And the 3 C's are cooperation, consultation, and consensus. Cooperation means different groups and different people working together towards a common end. Consultation means that those who have the power to make decisions talk to the people who are affected by the decisions and try to make sure that their policies and their strategies are the right ones. And consensus is formed when groups of people get together with a common purpose and work together as a unit. And I think China's form of democracy does that very well. I would describe the Western democracy also as being built on 3 C's. But the 3 C's of Western democracy are competition and confrontation and conflict. The West is very, very focused. They have an almost religious faith in the power of oppositional politics. They believe that by having opposing forces in the government, the opposition can keep the government in check, and if the people are not satisfied with the government, they have the opportunity through votes and elections to choose a different government. In practice, what it ends up doing is inviting people into the political sphere who enjoy conflict, because competition leads to confrontation between opposing forces, and confrontation leads to conflict. In terms of the definition of democracy, the West has very powerful soft power. So I often say that the person who controls the megaphone controls the message. The West has this very strong belief about what democracy should look like, but it tends to be focused on processes rather than outcomes. It's focused on things like votes and elections rather than what the votes and elections deliver. So the West divides the world into countries that mirror its own interpretation of democracy and countries that don't. The words they use to define that, authoritarian, for example, is becoming much less effective as a definition because Western countries themselves are becoming more and more authoritarian. There is less and less free speech. There's more and more interference with ordinary people going about their business. China's form of democracy, as it becomes demonstrably successful, as it clearly delivers results, then China's influence on the international stage will grow through the books, like The Governance of China. China communicates to the international community, how does our system work? Now, no other country is going to be able to emulate everything in China's system, and China does not seek to force its system on other people. But there are elements which can be used across the board by many countries or even any countries. For example, the development process, the people-centered development, that's something that can be adopted and it can be applied. Specific tactics that China used in its poverty alleviation process can be adopted and applied. So I think that China's influence will become increasingly important in terms of other developing countries. And I think that although the Western media, the Western process will fight very hard to stop it, I think that more and more people in Western countries, in developed countries, in these supposed successful, prosperous democracies, will more and more start to look at China's model. And you can see that happening. And things like Xiaohongshu, a lot of Western people are now logging onto that system and they're seeing stuff about China that they never knew before. And it is actually starting a process where they question what they've been told and they question what they've been told about China and they question what they've been told about the fundamental differences between systems and they question what they've been told about their system being so far superior to other potential forms of democracy.